All right, we are back here on the podcast talking New York Jets football in the opening tip, and we have some news. The Jets have made a coaching change. Adam Gase is gone. Joining me today, our unofficial host of the podcast and the host of his own podcast, the Green Skies podcast, Will Schneiderhan is here. Will, how are you?
I'm good, Mike, and can put a face to a name, right? I don't think we've ever done this.
No. Our first time doing this. I mean, the audience can put some faces and names now. I mean, you've seen Pete Contador, you've seen Sam DeRosa, you've seen Nick Frietta. I don't count Mike Borkinoff as a face, but he did the first Zoom on here. But you and I now are officially on the Zoom level.
Yes, took after a long journey of just doing the typical way. But yeah, I'm happy to be here, and you all get to see the what my room looks like. So consider yourselves lucky. No.
Yeah. Yep, you are lucky indeed. And right now we are getting ready for an off season, and we did have some big breaking news over the weekend. Adam Gase officially fired after going 9-23 in 2 seasons with the Jets, and Christopher Johnson made the decision. Didn't even wait until Black Monday. Well, he got it out of there Sunday night.
It's funny. Didn't they do the same thing with Todd Bowles? I have a funny tidbit. I think I told you guys this. When I was in Newsday, I interned at Newsday from like September 2018 to literally the December 30th, 2018. And I think that's when the Jets season, it was an earlier calendar. So like in New Year. So it was that day, it was week 17. And I can't remember, did they play Buffalo or New England?
New England.
Right? It was in New England.
In New England.
Same exact scenario. They flew back, landed, fired him. And I remember the intern and I was in Newsday doing the digital stuff. So we're working on the website for sports and stuff. And the intern and I are looking at each other like, it's our last day. Like, please do not fire this guy tonight, because then it's like, articles, all the Jets beat, everybody, the whole newsroom is like panicking, getting stuff up. And oh my gosh, we're sitting there. And all of a sudden, my supervisor messages us on Slack and goes, all right, Todd Bowles was fired. Go to the back desk and like make sure all this is going. And I'm like, wait till Monday. And that's all I thought in this situation is, pandemic permitting, there's probably 2 interns at Newsday who, for finishing up their shift, thinking the same thing we were, and then they fired him. So yeah, I just I mean, you kind of knew it was going to happen, obviously, right? And unfortunately for him, he just did not follow up a season where 7-9 last year, and they played good in that little streak that they had, and just, I mean, nothing good this year. Nothing good.
I will say it's nice, and you got to feel like as Jet fans, we finally get to have a little party here. We're celebrating, man, because you know what? He's gone. This is so stupid, and it's a Jet fan. You're sitting there like, what took them so long? Because I feel like any Jet fan with a pulse could have told you he was hired 2 years ago. This is going to end up being the eventual outcome.
Yeah, it never really had that like kick to it. And I know Christopher Johnson, who was involved, and like he did the whole didn't he have like Charlie Casserly and somebody else like involved with like kind of vetting the option?
That was a couple of cycles ago. That was Woody.
Okay, my fault then.
Yeah.
Regardless, just didn't get it right. And I gave Christopher some credit because Christopher Johnson in that release, he kind of admittedly was like, didn't work. We thought it was going to go one way, yada, yada, yada. And you swing and misses sometimes. And unfortunately, this was definitely a swing and a miss. And I think like you go back, like you said, and you just know that wasn't really the right guy. So, okay, here we are. You move on. And now it's weird because like you said, like, after such a season where they lost a lot of games and nothing really great happened, like you are optimistic as a Jets fan now. Like I am highly optimistic. I think Douglas I really trust the guy. I'll be honest. I think the guy's going to hit it out of the park.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, think about this situation here at the Jets, because obviously they had the press conference today. Christopher Johnson said, you know what, like we want to hire the CEO coach, and we want to have a guy that coach the whole team and coach his coaching staff, which you love to hear, because the Jet pattern over the past 2 decades then we're going to hire the hotshot coordinator, or we're going to hire, in this case, Adam Gase, who's basically a glorified offensive coordinator for the Dolphins, and say, okay, you run your half of the team. Here, we'll hire a defensive or offensive coordinator. They run their half of the team, and then we hope it works, and they work together well. And it worked with Rex. It worked with Herm a little bit. Like, this did not work very well. You need a guy to run the whole team. I think if you're going that way, that's the way you got to go.
Yeah, like Rex, and it's kind of weird. Like I feel like it works better with defensive minded guys because like I don't know, they have that discipline to them. It feels like with Rex, where an offense it's just tough. Like you look at Arizona, like Cliff Kingsbury, kind of feel like he maybe isn't like a head coach. Like he's a good offensive coordinator. Is he the head coach? We'll see. Sean McVay, I think he's a good head coach, but still, you can tell.
Is he though?
Yeah. Listen, I will say this. I'm not a big Jared Goff fan. Just like, I don't know. He's never really done it for me, but McVay, like what you saw him do with the guy yesterday, Wolford,
yep.
Dude, like he dialed up a fantastic gameplay. But again, like to your point, maybe that's just McVay being a brilliant offensive coordinator instead of a head coach. But still, I agree. Like, I like what the Giants did with Joe Judge. Yes, I know 6-10. How excited can you really get with that? But I think that they're going in the right direction. And that's a guy who he doesn't really have a specific niche other than special teams. And he's a fantastic head coach. So get a head coach and then like get the coordinator. Like, dude, I bet you if you asked like 9 Jets or you went and asked 10 Jets fans who the team's offensive coordinator with Adam Gase was, maybe 8 of them wouldn't know. So, you know what I mean? Like emphasized getting the head coach, like you said, get the coordinator under the head coach who can be like that guy who is the guru and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think the problem here is like, obviously, like to answer that question, I feel like most of the people would have known about Darryl Watkins this year because the whole thing about is Adam Gase actually calling the plays and is he, the guy or is he the problem guy here? But with the situation the Jets have here is like, you have to look at it and say, we have to trust Joe Douglas to make this hire. And so far, it sounds like Christopher is going to do that, which is the right thing to do. But right now, you just have to think that this is an organization that has used a Korn Ferry search firm that got them John Idzik. They had Charlie Casserly give them Mike McCagnon and Todd Bowles. That did not work out very well. They let Peyton Manning talk them into Adam Gase. This is Christopher Johnson. The thing is, and Brian Costello, a friend of the podcast, made this point on Twitter today. I think it's a great point. The Johnsons, particularly Christopher, they're not as much meddlers as more they are too trusting of the people they hire, whereas they're or are in their ears. Like Korn Ferry said, John Idzik is great. And they're like, awesome, let's hire him. And they said, and Charlie Casserly's like, Mike McCagnon is going to be an amazing general manager. And he's like, boom, we're hired. I feel like at least now with Joe Douglas, they have the right guy there and he will give them good options.
Yeah, it's just too trustworthy to a fault where, now you have a guy like Douglas where, and again, they're trusting him, but I think it's the right guy to trust. So, right, like he's very well known. A lot of people really respect Douglas. So, all it takes is one hire, and I think Douglas is the one hire that can change everything.
Yeah, he can. And we've gotten a bit of a list out there. It sounds like they're going to take their time, go through the very lengthy interview process. We've heard so far they've asked to interview Eric Bieniemy from the Chiefs, Arthur Smith from the Titans, Brian Daboll, used to be the Jet quarterback coach under Mangini. Now he turned Josh Allen to a star at the Bills. We've heard Wink Martindale's going to get an interview here. We talked Matt Eberflus, Patrick Graham from the Giants. There's more to come. There's a wide net here, and I love it.
I love it. Yeah. This morning, I can't remember what radio show. It might have been DiPietro, Canty, and Rothenberg on ESPN, or maybe it was Bart and Hahn, but they're basically saying like, this is what you do, right? Like you just said, it cast that wide net because you never know. Like, okay, I think, I know Atlanta really, I don't know this. I heard that people are suggesting that Atlanta really wants to get Bieniemy in the room. And, this is the week you'd probably interview him, right? Because if not, you're not hearing from him until probably the Chiefs win their Super Bowl again. But I like Daboll a lot. Brian Daboll. I just, like you just said, dude, he made a guy who is an absolute project. And that's not offending Josh Allen. I think he'd tell you that too. Really raw quarterback prospect. Such a project pick. And I mean, granted, it wasn't all just, it was a whole coaching staff, but regardless, this dude, you can't name, all right, other than Rodgers and Mahomes, like, I think it's fair to say Josh Allen's probably the 3rd or 4th best quarterback in the NFL right now. And, you're either keeping a guy in Sam Darnold who you need to fix, or you're drafting another guy and a young quarterback who's going to need to adjust coming in the NFL. So that's my opinion on it. But regardless, keep casting that net, get as many names as you can in the building. I mean, it's just really, it's a smart thing to do. It's just as simple as that.
I think for me, the guy I'm going to go on the record, I think is going to end up getting this job. I think it's going to be Wink Martindale from the Ravens because obviously connects to Joe Douglas, defensive background, and the Johnsons love hiring defensive-minded coaches. I think going back to, the Bill Belichick, Al Groh hire, I think like 6 of their last 7 hires have been on defensive coaches, and one exception was Adam Gase. I think Wink Martindale, obviously coming from the Ravens, he's drawing comparison defensively to Rex, which that Woody will love and Christopher Johnson will love.
Love Rex still.
Yep, they do. And the relationship is there with Joe Douglas. You figure that's where we're going here. We are going to something like that. I think that's what I put my money on, but I would love to see somebody, come in, win the room and you walk out and say, wow, that's our guy. And it's not somebody we're expecting to get.
I do. And that's a guy he leads men, it's a cliche term, but it's a good candidate to have. Definitely a good guy to get into that room. And like you said, I do completely agree with you that I think that Ravens connection will ultimately come into play because Douglas has used that connection and that Philly connection quite a bit so far in terms of player personnel in his brief time here. But hey, get him in the room. I'm down for it.
We also have not heard any stupid names coming in this pattern either, which I like. We have not heard the Chargers are going to interview Jason Garrett for their head coaching job, which makes no sense to me.
I guess you got it. Maybe he knows someone there, right? But I know I had heard. I guess they think Garrett's gone in New York after a year. But I think after Matt Rule and Mike McCarthy really wanted to express their interest in being the head coach, and Christopher Johnson went another path. I think they're really going to focus on those top candidates this time and not a Peyton Manning phone call.
Yeah, I think the thing that's important here is also another point that Christopher made that actually caught my eye was the fact he's open to changing the power structure that the organization had, which is, in my opinion, dumb, but we'll let that be a point because the Packers do it, the Packers successfully, but the Packers are a publicly owned team where, it's a corporation. They don't have to have bosses. But here, the Jets setup is the GM and the coach are equals, and they both report to Christopher Johnson, which to me makes no sense because they have different priorities. It should be the coach reports to the GM reports to the owner, and then so on and so forth. And I think here, you're doing this, you fix a lot of the problems that way, and you don't have situations where you have Mike McCagan trying to pick the coaching staff and scaring Matt Rule away.
Yeah, the infrastructure is a big deal. But I will say this about Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers makes a lot of things that, don't necessarily go. I think they get away with it a little bit because of how damn good Aaron Rodgers is. But yes, they do. I really do respect the fact again, that Christopher Johnson has really been open to okay, enough is enough. Let's change as much as we can here because I'm willing to change. I realize we have to change. Therefore, let's talk about it. That's really big to me. I'm not trying to be that guy, but that is very important. And the fact that he's even just talking about it, really the fact that he's talking about it really suggests that is what they are going to do, in my opinion.
This is not a Jaguar situation where Shad Khan's coming out today saying, I control the roster and I'm going to keep controlling the roster even when I don't have a GM or a head coach yet. It's a great way to get candidates to come in the building.
I mean, is he even a football guy, that guy? He owns a soccer team? I have no idea. Listen, if he is, my fault, but
he is not a football guy. I mean, this is not even a Jerry Jones situation where Jerry Jones actually being the general manager of the Cowboys here. This is just Shad Khan saying, I'm controlling who's on the team. I don't care who the football guys are.
Yeah, until Urban Meyer shows up, and that's all out of the window, right? Urban Meyer rolling to Jacksonville to be told who's playing for his team.
Yeah, and I think the big thing here is, regardless of who the coach is and what Joe Douglas does here, they have to figure out the quarterback situation. I think you and I agree with this off the line. I'm going to put this out here. Sam Darnold is not going to work here anymore because he's gone backwards. He has seen his stats take a dip. Last year, they said, it's the mono. This year, he is healthy most of the time, but he has not performed well. And the thing that bothers me, and I think it's the point that friend of the podcast, Brian Costello, brought up, I talked to him back in April. It's at some point, your quarterback needs to be able to help your teammates get better. And
Yeah,
there were games this year where we saw Joe Flacco running with the same core of players, and they were a very productive offense. And Sam comes in next week, and they can't move the ball at all.
Yep. Hold up. Before I get into this Darnold topic, I'm just gonna grab a bobblehead out of my thing real quick here, and I'm gonna tell you.
Oh, a visual aid.
Yes, over here.
Yeah. So Will's great as visual aid. Just a note here that the Jets contract situation here with Sam is basically year 4, $7 million. Year 5, the contract option year, so $25 million.
So this, like you, me, every Jets fan, when this guy was drafted, how excited were we, right? I don't want to listen. I understand the business, and I know that this is the path they're likely going to go into. And I completely agree that Sam Darnold, and he says it, he has not elevated the player around him. He has not been able to do it. I'm just like, it's so hard for me to move on from just like, I know. And listen, I know the money. I know it hasn't been well. Let's be real here. They're going to do it. It just comes down to what is the cost and, who do they take instead? I just want to be, Sam Darnold, go somewhere else and be great, man. I want you to do it. I still root for you. I wish it worked out here, but hey, that's just part of the business. And I truthfully do think Justin Fields is going to be the guy that they end up going with. I not only because of that game. Here's my thing about that game against Clemson. Geez, sorry.
He beat Trevor Lawrence.
Yes, right. He beat Trevor Lawrence. I mean, yes, dude. Some of those throws, wow. But
with injury.
That's where I'm going. I think the one thing that Douglas, because Joe Douglas loves, well, what does he say? Guys who love to play ball. And dude, you texted me. He's got to have a broken rib. This kid's like, he's hobbling. He can't sit on a bike, and he's throwing 5 touchdowns. Like that toughness and that ability. Because you saw how Ohio State played after he got hurt. Rallied around their quarterback. So I just think if there's one guy that Douglas is going to fall in love with, it really could be that Justin Fields, just because that right there, that toughness. And I'm not saying Darnold doesn't have that. Darnold came back onto the field after his shoulder was damn near ripped out of his body.
Yeah, I think the thing you have to remember also is number one, I watched that game. I was so impressed. Some of those throws he was making, especially the throw in the first touchdown after he had the injury, where he basically throws basically on a line over 2 defenders to a tight end in the back of the end zone. That was impressive. But the thing, frozen rope. And Joe Douglas loves these guys who have the elite physical traits that you can't teach. Look at the guys he picked last year. Mekhi Becton, massive offensive lineman. Denzel Mims, tall, productive receiver. James Morgan, developmental quarterback, 6'6". He loves it. Justin Fields is 6'4", has all the physical tools you want to quarterback. He's going to go for that over a guy like Zach Wilson.
Yeah, I get Connor Hughes. He was saying how Wilson might be more attractive because he does more with less, where Fields, I guess does less with more, if that's fair to say, which I don't really think he's doing less with more to a degree. He has had clunkers, but yeah, it's just, it really comes down to other than Carson Wentz and I don't know if there's more, or Lamar Jackson, but Lamar was the 30th pick or whatever. Are there that many top quarterbacks picked from these schools like Ohio State, stuff like that? I guess Jordan Love, but Jordan Love was later in the draft too last year. So I just feel it's really tough to be whatever you saw from Zach Wilson at BYU was good enough to say, okay, this big physical kid from Ohio State who went to Georgia before, I'm pretty sure. I don't know. To me, I know Dwayne Haskins didn't work out. Sometimes these big Power 5 quarterbacks actually don't work out, but I don't know. I really like what I see from Fields, and I think it's really tough to say, okay, Wilson over Fields. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think they're going to go with Fields. I think that's the way I would go. I think that's the way Douglas wants to go. Again, based on the physical traits and the physical things you cannot teach.
Dude, Vicky said, yeah, really solid, dude. He looks like Cam Newton, the way his legs are he's a big guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Plus, the way the NFL is right now, you reset the cap clock and you get him on the rookie contract, and then you can use all that cap space you have to build the offensive line, go sign an edge rusher, go sign a top flight receiver and give him the help that Sam Darnold never got, because they need offensive linemen. I would think that they're going to be in on Joe Thuney if he hits free agency this year, go sign away from the Patriots.
A lock if he hits free agency. Douglas apparently loved him last year. I can't imagine he lets him slip this year if he hits the market.
Yeah, the Ravens are going to lose one of either Matt Judon or Yannick Ngakoue in free agency. I think one of those guys is a lock to be on the Jets, especially Judon if he's the one the Ravens choose to let go. They need an edge rusher badly. They need a corner that could use a top receiver. I think the Jet fan, like, if the Bears somehow let Allen Robinson go, you got to be all over that.
Yeah, because he's not of like people. Some of the friends that I text with are like, Allen Robinson, like, you're not paying him that. I'm like, dude, he's not Julio Jones. I get it. Like, he's not that name. Allen Robinson is a damn good wide receiver, a beast. And he was catching, 90 balls a year playing with Mitch Trubisky. Like, come on. That's a dude who you get on this team, a really, really good receiver.
Yeah, indeed. I think there's a lot going on here. We're going to talk more about the Jets next week. I'm going to dive deeper into what's going on with them. But, Will, thanks for all the time. I really appreciate it. Before I let you go, how can people follow social media and keep up some of the stuff you're up to?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter at Will Schneider H1, and I do the podcast Green Skies, where, again, it's been like a little on and off, but I am going to get back into like a kind of a final recap podcast that is on Anchor FM, and they put that onto Spotify and so on through that platform, so you can just type Green Skies. And I obviously put that on my Twitter and socials. And then going to get into some NFL articles here as, the Super Bowl playoffs creep in. So I'll hit you with some fan-sided stuff. Just finished a full year of fantasy football sleepers, which, hey, flip the coin every week to see what I put on there. But, yeah, on Twitter, you can catch all that good stuff. And thanks for having me on, Mike. I enjoy it. And like I said, everybody gets to see my face now in my bedroom and my bobbleheads. Like, hey, it's a great time.
Hey, next time we're doing this, maybe we'll see Anthony Sorbolini's face. We talk about baseball.
Yeah. Hey, get Sorbs in. Yeah, you can see everybody.
Yeah, we will. Up next, we'll talk some more NFL. Get ready for the wild card round with Daryl Slater right after this.
And Derrick Henry rushed for over 200 yards.
Tannehill has run for 2 touchdowns, thrown for 1 today.